Hi guys, sorry I haven't posted a video on my house recently. It's mainly because I haven't done that much since the last video. So I've been busy with daily life. On the weekends I've been helping to coach one of my son's soccer teams with a couple of the other dads, which has been interesting since I never really played much soccer back in Australia. But I have been working through some of the list from the 35 things that I still need to do on my house video. And to be honest, there are a lot more than 35 things. For example, I've done a bit of the shikui around the old toilet. I've made the kitchen shelves below the oven. By the way, thanks for your suggestions. Actually, I think I used some of the ideas for doing that. I kept it pretty simple, as you'll see later. And as we've entered spring, I've also been spending quite a bit of time on the garden. But the project that's taken up most of my time has been the deck and stairs out the front of the house. Now, it hasn't been a very simple project. It's been a bit complicated for quite a few reasons, which I'll show you a bit later on. But first I'll show you some of the shikui plastering that I've done outside the old toilet. It's just a small project, but it's helped to make me feel that I'm making some progress. To make the kitchen shelves, I'm using a sheet of lumbercore plywood, and I remember here that I have a track for my saw. For the edge banding, I'm just using some scrap wood. So I repeated the process and made an identical shelf. And then I gave the shelves a light coat of wood wax. The carpenter had previously made the shelf for the microwave, so I was really just copying what he had done, and he'd also installed the adjustable strips for the shelves. My original plan was to make some drawers to put in here, but I decided to go with the simple option and instead make shelves and use rattan baskets. I was happy with how it turned out in the end. Today I'm starting work on the front deck. As you can see here, I've already got the wood. This is hinoki. It's not pressure treated or anything like that. It's decent quality, but not the most expensive stuff. I don't know whether I'll regret that later. So the main purpose of the deck is to have a stairs and a platform for the door here. I want to cover up the pipes and also the boiler as much as possible. So in Japan, and surprisingly, there aren't really very many regulations when it comes to decks. The main one is that if the deck is over 1 meter in height, it requires a handrail. The door is up about 65, 66 centimeters above the concrete base here. The concrete itself is around 30 centimeters, so just under 1 meter. But anyway, I want to have a handrail here just for safety. People and couriers and old ladies falling off backwards this way. One of the main challenges is that concrete base there is not perfectly flat, and it also slopes away from the house at quite a steep angle, though you don't really notice it on camera. In addition, the deck sections in front of the EcoCute boiler units need to be relatively easy to remove in case we need to service the EcoCute. I designed the deck in SketchUp and there were a few design features I wanted to incorporate. I wanted the deck boards to run perpendicular to the house rather than parallel, as Japanese temples tend to have the deck boards facing in that direction, and I wanted to mimic that look. Also, I wanted to fix the deck boards from below rather than above to make the deck more resilient to rain and for aesthetic reasons. I got this idea from a Japanese deck I saw on Instagram, and the carpenter kindly sent me the drawings and explained how they did it. I looked at a lot of Japanese decks when researching the design, but using purely traditional Japanese wood joints to make the decks was too ambitious for me, so I used metal fasteners but tried to make them as non-visible as possible. But as most deck building tutorials I found on YouTube were more Western style with boards parallel to the house, I had to create my own design, so I certainly made this project a lot more complicated for myself, which is reflected in the time it has taken me to build it. And I'm still not finished. When I first edited this deck section, the runtime came to 55 minutes even with time lapses. So I've shortened it here, but if you'd like to see how I did it in more detail to identify even more mistakes that I've made, I'm putting the extended version on my Tokyo Llama Plus channel. There's no requirement in Japan to secure a deck's footings to the ground, but with the typhoons I thought it would be best to do something. After checking that everything fit, I then went and stained the wood. I was going to stain the deck brown, but after having a look at a few pieces, I changed my mind and decided to go with a clear stain. I saw our carpenter using one of these tools, and after messing around with a tape measure trying to measure the internal length, I decided to buy one myself. This is me making the world's worst tenons. There were some boards that I couldn't fasten from the bottom, so I had to fasten them from the top. That finishes the permanent structure of the deck. I'm currently working on the section that you can remove in order to get to the EcoCute unit, and that's proving to be pretty complicated too, but I'll show you that one next time. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we've also been working in the garden, been planting new plants and flowers, also taking care of the lawn, but the garden update's for another video that I'm currently working on that I've almost finished actually, so look out for that in the next week or so. Let me know if you have any comments or questions down below, and thanks for watching, and see you next time.